Welcome to our pilot series of Operation Transmit Leadership. Operation Transmit Leadership is an audio program of local leaders providing insight and mentoring about servant leadership. This program is produced by Michiana-based volunteer team. Program guests are local leaders from all backgrounds, professions, and callings who are recognized for demonstrating outstanding leadership by serving others.
Hi everyone, I'm Mike Nabalski and I'm joined by Operation Transmit Leadership team member Chris Wolf and our special guest today, Becky Summers of Ronald McDonald House of Michiana. Becky, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Becky, could you tell us in your own words what your definition of servant leadership would be?
I believe a servant leader really has to consider both using their head and their heart. I think that every day you come in contact with someone as a servant leader, you're thinking about the impact that you have not only to your community, but you're also thinking about the impact that you have to the individuals that are around you.
In your opinion, what makes servant leadership different from other leaderships?
I think that when you become a servant leader, you really have taken that next level of leadership. You've taken it to a higher level. You're able to really recognize the fact that everything you do doesn't have to be at a management style level, but that it can be in a leadership level so that you're helping individuals grow along the way and you're giving back to them in a way that's a little different than just managing them.
Becky, can you walk us through some history on how you got to where you are in terms of leadership philosophy and experience?
Absolutely. Chris, I think for me, I learn every time I come in contact with someone. So I take every opportunity when I'm given a formal leadership experience, like South Bend-Mishawaka leadership was great for me to kind of help me understand a broader sense of what leadership is really about and to help put it in context of some of the things I maybe already did but didn't realize why I was doing it. So that was a really great beginning opportunity for me. And then from there, I had the opportunity to work with an executive coach for about 3 years that really helped me hone my skills a little bit and helped me understand that it was okay to be a servant leader and how I could use that better in the workplace, because I think sometimes people feel there's a disconnect between the two and there should be such a tighter connection. In business every day, I think servant leadership is something that if you utilize well, you'll help your managed employees and you'll help your staff and the people around you. You're going to help them grow more and faster if you're able to help them in a way that comes from a servant leadership perspective.
So along the lines of utilizing a coach, who are some of the mentors that you've looked to over the years?
For me, I have had formal mentors. One specifically, I worked with Nancy Hellier years ago when she was at St. Joe Regional Medical Center. I was in the financial services industry then, so it's kind of interesting to me now because I met her and worked with her when they were building the St. Joe Hospital. And then for me to end up at the Ronald McDonald House, building a house inside a hospital, it was just one of those weird, lifetime coincidences that I learned a few things that she learned along the way. She helped mentor me in leadership, but also gave me some ideas and thoughts. And many of those came back to me as we built the Ronald McDonald House here in town. It was just an opportunity for me to reflect on some of the things she had told me in context of building something like that inside a medical facility. So having those kind of weird coincidences that help you later in life, you have to really be aware of those things. The other thing for me, as far as mentors, I feel like that you learn from every person that you come in contact with. And you're not doing yourself a service if you're not going in with eyes open and helping yourself grow along the way. It may, for me, be a family that's going through a journey with a sick child that they exhibit some really strong leadership opportunities. They take advantage of that from a servant leader because they're working with hospital staff and they're trying to help their child grow, but they're also alongside so many other families going through the same things and they're leading them through a path they've already been on. And to just be able to witness that and to see some of those opportunities as they evolve and emerge has just been a godsend for me over the last few months and in the last 2.5 years. It's really helped me open my eyes and understand how servant leadership really is threaded everywhere if you just open your eyes and look and think about it in those terms.
How do you incorporate servant leadership in your everyday life?
For me, I have such an opportunity to work in an organization that I come in contact directly every day with the people that we serve. And with a family that has a sick child, I think that it gives me the opportunity to give from my heart to them and to help them help them in ways that, one, they're not expecting, but in ways that they can grow and maintain some sense of normal while they're going through a situation which is so hard for them with a sick child. So every day I try to incorporate that into my life, and I try to help understand too the impact that can have on other team members that we have here and other volunteers. With about 170 volunteers, they give of their time, but they give of their heart as well. So to be immersed in servant leadership like that every single day, again, it's a blessing. It gives me an opportunity to be at home and to help other families do what they need to do, which is take care of their children.
You had mentioned to us before we started the program about the differences in your prior career compared to now in your present role. Can you comment a little further on that in terms of in the business and banking world, how that's changed things?
Oh, absolutely. Prior to coming here, I worked at a financial institution for, I'll say 20 some years, because I hate to date myself too much. But in working there, I really felt like at a credit union I was able to give and help people have a different financial perspective and to make a big difference in their lives. And it was really fulfilling to me from a hitting the mission perspective. Loved working there. Thought it was a great opportunity. But then when I came here, it was eye-opening to understand that, opening your heart every day and serving people in a different way than I had before, it just gave me a whole different perspective. It allowed me to be more comfortable in the love that I gave to people, but it also gave me a chance and an opportunity to help people grow when they were in a much different situation. Finances are so important to individuals, and those are really hard times for people if they can't make a payment or if they need to buy a car and can't and things like that. Now I'm working with people that they don't know if their child's going to live to tomorrow, and that's a whole nother level of compassionate care that you give people, and it's just been a blessing to be able to have that underpinning of servant leadership to be able to thrive in an environment like that.
That's quite a contrast.
Becky, can you describe a time when you witnessed servant leadership from someone else and the impact it had on you and those around?
Recently we had a family that was just going through a really tough situation with their child and the illness, and I think for me it was interesting to see as the situation unfold when another family, I'll say, took them in. The family was sitting there having dinner, having a little private dinner conversation, and this mom was just having such a bad day, but to bring her into their conversation, to sit with them and to have that next level of conversation, and to really encourage them to hold on for the next day, that tomorrow's going to be different, and help lead them through that and have some real hard conversations with them about what they were going through. I think that kind of leadership happens more often than not, and witnessing it and keeping your eyes open to see it is a really good learning experience for a lot of people, for sure. The impact it really had on me was to really make sure that sometimes those spontaneous opportunities that individuals have to lead through, to encourage them to do that, to encourage them to step out of their comfort zone or to step out of their own situation and look at others and help them through it, is really healing for them as well. So helping them understand that their leadership makes a big difference and makes a difference in many people's lives. I think that is the piece that is very important to me, and that's what has the most impact, is to make sure we make those connections and people work together.
Becky, you mentioned earlier some examples to us about the process of getting this facility going and some remarkable instances among donors. Could you share that with the audience?
Yeah, I had, several. It really is an honor to speak to people, and when you're talking to them in terms of helping us build a Ronald McDonald House here in town, or helping us help families, it sometimes seems like it's hard for them to visualize or to understand it, but when they come into the space and they're able to think in terms of what we can do as either a large corporation or as an individual, I think that's where you really see some opportunity on the leadership side. Whirlpool's a perfect example. They've always given us donations, etc., but they gave us all of the appliances for the house, which was amazing. And then for an individual to step forward and say, well, don't forget we own KitchenAid. How much more can we give you? How much more can we, because we know these families are going to want to cook on those stoves and you need that. So how can we give you more? That just takes you aback when you realize that corporations drive through their organizations how important it is to serve the communities in which they're in. And when that kind of mission-driven activity happens at any level in the organization, I think the organization needs to be proud, and they need to understand that they're doing such a great thing for the community through all of their individual employees, and they should be proud of that, and individuals in the community should understand how much they are giving back.
Are there some other examples of that during the process?
I think another example of that during the process would be even our signage vendor who came in on the internal side and was helping with just basic signs. They came through the space and they looked at it and they talked in terms of how a family might feel when they needed to get somewhere. And instead of thinking about their business and selling me a sign, they wanted to really walk through the space and understand what a family would be feeling. And they asked such great questions about what time would they come in? Would it be 3 a.m? Might it be dark? Do they need uplifting, do they need to feel more uplifted in this space or that space? They were asking such questions that would serve those individual families as they came in a way that was much different than, what's the room number and what sign should we put here and do you want your logo here or not? They really ask a lot of really heartfelt questions that really made you think in terms of that experience for that family and tried to put themselves in the situation so that they were providing the best product for the consumer, and doing the right job for us, but really making sure that that family had what they needed every single moment. And I think those are the things that I saw really come out during the house build and during that time with our families.
That's great. Becky, you've been through the leadership program that we're all going through right now, the South Bend-Mishawaka leadership program, and I understand you've been more involved in the board and so forth. How has that experience affected you and shaped you? And if you can just share any thoughts on the leadership program and what it did for you.
Sure. It was many moons ago that I went through the program officially, and then I was on the board after that. But I have to say that for me, the leadership program came at a very pivotal time for me. I think that it really helped me with my personal confidence, and it helped me understand that the way I did business was a good thing, and how I shaped it and was able to really work with other people. It really helped me define who I was going to be in management roles and in leadership roles. And it really gave me, I think, a framework for how I felt things should happen. It was really my first experience to give me that framework and that I guess, direction. And I think the other thing that's so important is for the leadership program to deliver graduates every year. Programs say we deliver so many graduates into the world. They deliver friends and relationships and connections. And that's the thing that I think South Bend-Mishawaka leadership does so beautifully, is they deliver connectivity. And what you learn during that program is really an opportunity for you to be allowed to give back to your community and be allowed to be part of something bigger. And just that connection, it's like being a grad from somewhere. Oh yeah, I was a grad from leadership. It's like this instant kindred spirit that you have with someone else because of the experience that you had and the growth you were able to have. So for me, it came at the right time in my life to give me that kind of next step opportunity. So
awesome. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been inspired by, past or historical leaders that have exhibited servant leadership? And if so, who and what did they do?
I think for me, when I started at the Ronald McDonald House, it was important for me to understand the history of the house, but the opportunity I had was to spend time with Kathleen Sparks, who is a McDonald's owner here locally with her husband David. And Kathleen really started and built this idea that, yes, there's a Ronald McDonald House philosophy, and yes, it's tied to McDonald's, but she really built the foundation and the historical view of what it should be, and it was completely based on servant leadership. So with my need and desire to lead that way, and with her vision of where this was going to be, it was it was really an opportunity for me to hear from a founder of an organization to say, this is the way we should do it because of the family. This is the way we should do it because of the children. It's not because of any other reason other than what do they need every single day. And she really inspired me, and Dave has inspired me to really do the next best thing here and make opportunities for people so that they have a place to go when something like this happens in their family. And no matter what it is, they always ask, how will this impact our families? And that's what I think the most pleasure I have working with someone that really, sometimes founders are very specific about what they want, and sometimes organizational leaders are very myopic in what they want how they want things to happen. And I would say the two of them, the only thing that creates that real small view for them is, how does this impact our families, and how are we going to make it happen, and how soon will it happen? So that was really a pleasure for me to work with someone that historically had a feeling for what this house was going to be and what it should be. And the pleasure I had was when Kathleen had been gone for 4 or 5 weeks, so she missed the end of the construction and things going on the wall and things like that. But for her to walk in and be brought to tears because she would walk through the house when she saw it, and she'd say, oh my gosh, our families are going to be able to sit together with their kids in this space. Our families are going to be able to cook a meal here in this space. I felt like for me, that was the opportunity to really learn and understand how important it was to make that difference for those families, and how she really viewed that, and keeping that close to the design all the way through was important, because I knew that's what was important for the mission. And she drilled that home every single day, and I think that was a good historical view for me to understand that.
That's great. You shared some things earlier with us, and I'm just wondering in terms of, like profiles in courage among families that you've worked with here, if there are examples of like siblings of sick children among the visiting families here where people have stepped up, or siblings of sick children have stepped up to help their families. Are there any stories like that, or anything that comes to mind in your time here?
Well, I'll give you, it's kind of a funny but a personal one. We have a really sweet family that they have a baby in NICU, and they have an older daughter, and they've pretty much moved in because it was a surprise for them to have the baby so early. So the daughter, who's about 8, goes to school. They take her to school. She comes back here. She sits at the table. She does her homework. Then she goes in and goes in the playroom, and she picks her snack. And she's just so diligent about making sure that homework gets done. And sometimes she has other little kids that'll sit with her, and she's so really cute. So one day I said something about, I'm really proud that you sat down and you do your homework right away. She goes, well, if the homework doesn't get done, then I can't go have my snack, and then I can't pick out what I want. And she just went on and gave me this whole example. And the whole time I'm sitting there going, if only I would just watch what she's doing and go do that depreciation schedule that I've been putting off for 6 months. If only I would do that work. But I think sometimes it's those little opportunities, because when she sits down to do her homework, even the other little kids will sit down and color or something, because it seems like the right thing to do. So through that activity that she's doing, other people sometimes just follow her based on what she's doing, because she's very specific. And I think she helps her family so much because she's here and she's in her routine. That helps them get some normal day going. They can come back and do homework like they always have, and then go back and visit little brother, and then come back and forth. But it's that normalcy, I think, that sometimes the kids help the families have every day, so they can still play with their toys, and they can still do their homework, and they can still talk to other people. It's just a joy to see that from a leadership perspective.
So she's leading by example. So, along those lines, in terms of youth, which this program is meant to be catered to some extent, and so just kind of wondering any advice you'd have for the youth in our community in terms of leadership and their goals they might have to be leaders in the future.
We do have an opportunity, and we do have some teen leaders that come in and do some activities over time. But I think the most important thing that people get out of working with us, or working with any charity or any organization, is to just look around and learn from their environment. So for a teenager or a younger child who wants to get involved, to be able to be in the space where they're seeing things happen and they're able to get involved at a very young age, it just starts them young enough that it becomes a norm for them to serve. It becomes a norm for them to make a difference in someone's life. And they start, I think once you do it and you get that first success under your belt, it just grows from there. So once you see them the first time, then they're coming back. Kind of one of the big things that families are starting to do today is for birthdays, like little kids' birthdays, they get all these presents, they have all their friends, and they're, unwrapping all this stuff. And what some of the parents have gone to is said, we're not going to have you bring a gift to us, bring a gift to a child that's in the hospital. And so they have all their partygoers bring a gift or money or whatever it is, and then that child a lot of times will come and deliver that to us. But for them to walk in here with their toys that they didn't really feel like they needed anyway and give to someone else, I think it hooks them. I think it makes them understand that give back is so important to other people. And when they see someone go, wow, this is for me, this is great, I get to take this and you are going to give it to me, I think that's where people start helping their children understand how important it is to give to their community.
Thank you, Becky, for spending the time and sharing your views on servant leadership with us and the audience. If you want more information about Ronald McDonald House of Michiana, please visit www.rmhciana.org. And thank you.
Thanks for having me today.
Thanks, Becky.
Thank you.
The opinions expressed in this program are of the guest and are not explicitly those of the Operation Transmit Leadership Group. Our guests are volunteers and have donated their time to promote servant leadership.
This Operation Transmit Leadership Program was produced by Kyle Bradamus, Kayla Myers, Mike Davolsky, Jody Russell, Laura Veramontes, and Chris Wolf. You can find more programs on our Facebook page, Operation Transmit Leadership.
Any views or opinions represented in this series of audio interviews are personal and belong solely to Operation Transmit Leadership and do not represent those of people, institutions, or organizations that the owner may or may not be associated with in professional or personal capacity unless explicitly stated. Any views or opinions are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, or individual. All content provided on the audio program series is for informational purposes only. Operation Transmit Leadership will not be liable for any errors or omissions in this information, nor for the availability of this information. The program, producers, and participants will not be liable for any losses, injuries, or damages from the listening, displaying, or any other use of this content or information. Any content usage or reproduction is not authorized without the explicit approval of the Operation Transmit Leadership team.